Hey guys, so I'm trying to make a video to show you what I'm doing with my front motor mount and how I built it and how it's not going to work out the way I built it. And it's been raining, I mean, cats and dogs all night, thundering, crashing, and now it's halfway through the day and it's still thundering a little bit, lightly raining. And I get like 10 minutes into my video and I get a damn severe weather alert on my phone and it stops my recording. It makes me want to strangle somebody. I'm tired of being interrupted. Just let me make my shit. Anyway, the point of the video, the motor mount. I got it built last night. I had a bunch of problems with my welding machine. Ran out of wire in the middle of it. Had to go to town and come back. Broke a piece on the machine, trying to get the high to low jumper changed over from low setting to high setting. But I got it, and I got everything welded together, and it's not going to work. And I'll show you why. This is what I got. This is what I come up with. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, my welding is not the best. I don't weld enough to keep in good practice, and it is a perishable skill, just much like marksmanship. If you don't shoot enough, you're not as good. If you don't weld enough, you're not going to weld as good. So I used to have a job where I welded daily and I did beautiful welds, and this is not the case anymore. So like I think my dad gave me that machine like 5 years ago. I put a 10-pound spool of wire in it when he gave it to me. That's the spool of wire I ran out of yesterday. So that shows you how much I weld in my day-to-day activities. Anyway, so I don't need to hear about how my welds aren't the best. I know. Anyway, this plate is supposed to sit flat. It is not sitting flat. That's a problem, because when I had the motor positioned where it's supposed to be and I mocked everything up, I had the motor mount plate on, bolted down tight, and it was flat. So everything was built and spaced and all with that being flat in mind. When I set the weight of the motor on it, when I let the hoist down, it did that, but it did it way worse. It was actually, the motor was pointed down, and that was almost vertical. So I didn't think it would move that far, but those the factory motor mount bushings, they're very stiff, but they're not stiff enough to stand up to a cantilevered load. Okay. They're built to have weight set straight down on them. And the way I did this, because it's got this pivot point here, instead of sitting weight straight down on it, it wants to turn it into a lever. I had an idea that it might do that when I was building it and when I was thinking about it, but I thought that those mounts and those 3/4 inch bolts, 5/8 bolts would be resilient enough to resist anything like that. The fact is they're not. In fact, you see I had to put a bunch more washers and spacers on there to tighten up the bushings even more. And I tightened the piss out of that while I was holding it up with the hoist to see if I could get it to sit low, and it's still not. When I let the hoist off, it didn't go back as bad, but that is not a permanent workable solution. If I was to go down the road with it like that, it would work its way down and the fan would get into something and the U-joint would break, and it'd just be bad news all around. So it can't work like that. So there's a couple different things I can do. I could do away with this mount entirely and build my own mount from here down to here that's solid, omitting this pivot and bushing altogether, or I can solid mount the plate and leave that. And I think what I want to do, I know what I want to do, is I want to solid mount the plate. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to weld this to the frame. That's not going to happen, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a template of these two holes right here out of probably some 3-inch by 3/16 or quarter plate, and I'm going to weld that to the support plate right below it. Yeah, let me see if I can get you a shot of that. Yeah, that plate. Now that plate has, I think, like 1.5 1 1/8 holes in it for the pilots of the bushings to sit in. So I've got to reduce those down to the size of these bolts, and then I've got to make a solid spacer to take up the space that the rubber bushings have. And then the template that I made for these bolt holes, I will weld that to the top of that support plate down there, and that will permanently locate this plate to that plate when the bolts are in it, and the solid spacers will take the place of the rubber bushings, and I'll just have to get shorter bolts and nuts, which is not a problem. It's hell, I might have them here, but if not, a hardware store run, you know. Then that will sit flat. It will be solid mounted steel to steel, and this bushing will take up any movement and vibration, which is that bushing is also still available. Obviously, it's a Cummins part, so I don't know how much it costs. I have no idea. Haven't looked it up. That bushing is good, so that means the front will not need the resilient mounts anymore from the military, which means I'll have 2 extras for the back, because now that they've been in there and used and compressed and all, I can't send them back to Mike and have him sell them as new, because that's not fair to another customer. So plus there's no way you could pass those off as new old stock, you know, not used. Anyway, but I think it's a good idea for me to keep them, because this motor may be a lot lighter than the multi-fuel, but it's got a lot more torque, which means I'll be putting a lot more pressure on the rear motor mounts than I did before, probably, until something else breaks, which means those bushings are going to wear out faster. So good idea to keep a couple spares around anyway, I guess. So that's where we're at. The machine is working. I got the welding machine working, obviously. I finished this, but now I've got to order a part, one of the connectors, the bulkhead connectors that goes into the machine, so I can put it back on the low side, so I can weld the exhaust together when I get to that, which is going to be pretty soon. So yeah, this is basically what happened. That thing right there, that's what you switch to go from high to low. And it had been in the low so long, I guess, that it was seized in there, and I was trying to twist it to get it to come out. It's just a push in. It's just a taper fit. There's no spring lock, no lug, no nothing. And what it did is there's a threaded brass tube in the back of there, and it threads into that plastic, the yellow thing. And what it did is it pulled the threads out of the yellow plastic. So now I can't switch it back to low to weld exhaust until I replace that piece, which it's on Amazon. It's not expensive, so I just gotta get it coming. Of course, even in the shop, I can't get out of the rain, so I mean, anyway, thanks for watching, dudes. I hope this helped, you know, give you a better idea of what you're gonna do or would need to do for a front motor mount if you're gonna do this swap. Know that if you're gonna use that bracket, that you're gonna have to solid mount the plate, or come up with something entirely different on your own. This is just the way I'm doing it. You can do it however you want. I'm sure there's a better way. I never claim to be the most creative person in the world, so I mean, if you got any ideas, feel free to post them in the comments, but bear in mind, by the time this video is posted, I will already have that done and worked out, because the videos are running a few days behind right now. It's just the way it is. I've been making a couple of videos a day. Sometimes I try to post 2 videos a day, especially if they're related, but it is what it is. Thanks for watching, dudes. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out our sponsor, Big Mike's Motor Pool. Listed in the description below. I'll put a link to his website. I'm getting all the parts that I've used for this, except the Cummins parts, of course, from him. And he ships fast, dudes, so takes care of you on price. Doesn't screw you on the shipping like some of the other dealers do. We'll see you later.